trying to chew up all my.
Hi, everybody. Today is Saturday, December 21st, and our friends Scott and Larry Johnson are back with us. Welcome back.
Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
You know, me showing up with Scott like this, Ray McGovern's going to accuse me of cheating on him.
Ray's a nice guy, but when he starts thinking you're committing infidelity, he turns into a son of a gun. You know?
Let's get started with what has happened in Russia and in Kazan. We know this city because of the latest summit, BRICS summit in Kazan. And right now, a drone attack on civilians on apartment buildings. And here is the footage of this attack. And it seems that it was a residential complex. It says that a building with apartments, a beauty salon, and a kindergarten. So it doesn't seem to have any sort of a strategic objective behind this attack. And I want to know your take, and let's get started with Larry. Your take on what has happened.
Well, it's not just this. Ukraine, I think, has gone in full desperation mode with the backing of the United States and the United Kingdom. Because first the attack on General Kirillov and the murder of Kirillov, followed up then by the combination of Storm Shadow and attack of missiles launched into Kursk, and then this attack in Kazan, and then a bomb just went off in Moscow. So what you're looking at is, I think, a desperation move by Ukraine, really trying. I don't know if their intent is to provoke a reaction from Russia, or in hopes that it will bring the West in, but regardless, they're going to get a reaction from Russia. There's no doubt about that.
Scott.
It's 100% active terrorism. There's no military value to what's being done here. It's purely political. So political. I mean, there's a legal definition of terrorism, and what the Ukrainians are doing right now is terrorism, plain and simple. Add to this, there's a string of arsonists. So the Ukrainians are paying people to run around in Russia and set buildings on fire. It's just 100% terrorism. It's not going to achieve what they want it to achieve. I mean, there's no strategic value to this. They haven't destroyed anything. They haven't, anything of value. They haven't, killed large numbers of people. I don't think anybody's died yet in this recent round. The assassination of Kirillov, of course, is different. But what the Russian response will be is, there will be a response. Russia has already shown that it's fully prepared to continue the large-scale use of the array of weapons that's already been used against Ukraine, the Caliber missiles, Iskanders, the various cruise missiles and weapons of that sort. The Oreshnik was so far one of, escalation to open the possibility of strategic intervention, because the Oreshnik is a strategic weapon system. But Russia has been loath to go that route again, because the problem is once you normalize that escalation, then what's the next level? And I think Russia is recognizing that the Ukraine and their allies in Europe and the United States are just, excuse me for saying, batshit crazy. There's no rhyme or reason for what's being done here, except people trying to burn the house down, take the house down with them as the Biden administration goes, as Germany collapses, as France collapses, as Europe collapses, as NATO stutters. Let me put it in this perspective. When I was in Congress a week and a half ago, I met with a senior representative, and part of the discussion was the briefing that the CIA has been providing to the White House and Congress about Russia's new nuclear doctrine and whether or not the lowering of the threshold was bluff or not by Russia. And the way that the mainstream media was portraying it was that the CIA was telling Congress and the White House that Russia was bluffing. And when I mentioned that to this person, because my belief is that Russia is not bluffing, this person who has received the briefing said that's not what the briefers were saying at all. The briefers were saying that Russia's not bluffing. And the problem was that the Biden administration said, that's okay, we're ready for this, meaning we're ready for a nuclear war. And now you take that sentiment, which was expressed to members of Congress, all of whom this person said, bipartisan in the room, jaws dropped and went, what do you mean you're ready for a nuclear war? Well, we're Congress, and this is the first time we're hearing this. And this is insanity. When you have a Biden administration that appears to be ready to engage in a nuclear war with Russia over Ukraine, that means that these acts of terrorism it's just part of a process of trying to provoke Russia, to get Russia to escalate into the ultimate form of Trump-proofing policy, which would be a nuclear war. Now, the idiots in Washington, D.C. believe it will be a limited nuclear war. Listen to Thomas Buchanan, the J5 plans guy of Strategic Command, saying, we're ready to have this nuclear exchange with Russia, almost like, hey, it's a game. And we're going to win, by the way. He said, we're going to win. We're going to prevail. But I think in a question either right after that, he said, we haven't been honest with the American people about what winning looks like. He said, it ain't going to be life as you know it. Even if we win, quote unquote, your life, the people who survive, their life will be completely different, never the same. We can run through the whole thing: food supply, water supply, healthcare, infrastructure, electricity, all these things gone, because it's a nuclear war. And the people that are left will be, engaged in basic survival. And he said, maybe we should be more honest with the American people about what's in store for them if we do what they want to do. Putin, has said that without Russia, a world without Russia is a world not worth living in, meaning that if the West wants to defeat Russia and take Russia down, then Russia will take everybody down with them. But he also has worked really hard to get Russia up to where they're at. He's not suicidal. And I do think that even though he's come under a lot of criticism, and he'll come under a lot of criticism again with this latest round of attacks, he's been very adept at escalation management and keeping his eye on the target. Remember, as these terrorist attacks took place that have zero military value, the Russian armed forces are advancing regularly across the line of contact. This war is won. And you have a new president coming in who has indicated that, he wants to bring this war to an end. Now, he's going to have some adjustments as Putin introduces into what Russian reality really is. None of this Keith Kellogg fantasy world. But I think Putin would like this war to end. Has a president that, incoming president that appears to be willing to engage in a dialogue to that effect. And therefore, knowing that Biden's willing to go to a nuclear war over this thing, just, suck it up. It's not changing the outcome. It's a political issue for Russia, but it's not an existential political issue, because beyond being angry and embarrassed, this doesn't change the needle at all. So I don't know. I mean, I agree with Larry. There's going to be a response, but I don't know if this is the event that causes Russia to unleash the Oreshnik. Maybe this will just be another 120, missile and drone attack that devastates what's left of the Ukrainian energy infrastructure, maybe takes out some command centers. There will be a retaliation, but, Putin so far has been very adept at avoiding stepping into the traps laid by Ukraine and NATO to try and create the circumstances that would justify, NATO intervention in Ukraine. And so I don't. We'll see what happens. But it's criminally stupid on the part of Ukraine. Criminally stupid.
Yeah, we've learned that Zelensky announced that Bill Burns, CIA Director Bill Burns, has arrived in Ukraine. And what would be the main goal of this visit, Larry, in your opinion?
No idea. I mean, let's go back to these drone strikes for a minute. Particularly the one in Kazan. That required NATO ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. That required some technical support on the side of NATO. So the West now is making no attempt to hide its attacks on Russia, that it's helping, aiding, and abetting. I mean, they've been doing it all along for the last 10 years, but now they're just being out and out blatant about it. So, either Bill Burns is there to say, okay, guys, yeah, we're with you. Screw, we're gonna screw those Russians. We're gonna get them. Or he's there saying, you better cut this out. We have no intention of following up on this. Is he going to try to shut it down, or is he going to expand it? But the fact that this attack into Kazan with the distance covered by those drones, this is important because I think Ukraine has now crossed a line. And Scott's right in that these are, we're using the Bibi Netanyahu definition of terrorism. I give Netanyahu credit for his appearance with Bill Buckley years, 1986, I believe it was, where he said, terrorism is violence against civilians for political purposes. That's exactly what's going on. That's exactly what Ukraine is doing. There's not any military objective or purpose. But, the thing that worries me is I don't think the West, and especially the United States, takes Putin and Lavrov and Gerasimov seriously. They don't take them seriously because they say, they're weak. Oh, we're going to do this. And they said it's a red line. Well, we crossed that red line. They didn't do anything. And so we'll just keep pushing. And they're going to push and push. And, it's that the cinematic moment where, the bully's constantly finger poking, the superhero in the chest. And finally, the superhero, breaks their finger and, crushes their face. And that, I think that's where we're headed. That, I think some of the attacks in Kursk actually did kill a couple of people. And, but the biggest outrage is that it's all on civilians. It's not military. Because I put the Kirillov in a different category, because I say, okay, they put a scooter outside his house with a bomb in it. What would have happened if an Air Force plane dropped the bomb on his house and killed him? That's okay. We'll allow that, but war is war. If you kill a military personnel, armed, unarmed, they're wearing a uniform, that's different than civilians. Civilians should be off limits, but as we've seen in the history of the United States, we've employed terrorism as one of our main tactics.
Scott, what did they need to announce it? Usually when Bill Burns goes there, nobody talks about it, but right now they have announced it. Why they did that?
Was it Kiev? Dima, was it Kiev that announced it, or the U.S. that announced it?
Zelensky announced it.
Oh, okay.
I don't believe if Zelensky had announced a clandestine arrival, he'd be in a lot of trouble. So I don't think that Burns he's done. Understand that Bill Burns isn't a CIA professional. He's a State Department professional. His specialty, he wrote a book called The Back Channel, and he was brought in by Joe Biden to use the CIA as a back channel for various issues. The CIA has a history of doing just that. If you take a look at what's going on in Palestine, the CIA was the back channel that communicated between the Palestinian Liberation Organization and the Israelis for a long time. So that was Burns' job. What is he doing there now? I think it's a public show of support by an agency that is out of control. We have a political change taking place, but one of the big challenges is going to be before Donald Trump and Tulsi Gabbard and others is reforming the CIA. The CIA has a huge array of infrastructure dedicated to Ukraine. And a lot of it is, black, not known, operating on budgets that Congress isn't even aware of, doing things that Congress isn't even aware of. Remember, since 2015, the CIA put 12 to 20 bases along the border with Ukraine and Russia. We're talking about it's hard to get Congress to fund a CIA station in a capital adequately. To put in 12 to 20 bases, they could be of different sizes doing different things, but this is significant commitment of CIA resources. The CIA is heavily invested in Ukraine, and I think Burns's mission was to come in and say, governments come and go, but the CIA is forever, and we're here with you, and you can rely upon that, because Larry knows better than me. What happened when Deutsch came into the CIA saying, "I'm going to reform the hell out of this place," and he brought his own people in, and the CIA old timers went, "We just aren't going to talk to you, listen to you, do anything you want. We're going to freeze your ass out, and you're going to fail," and he did. Yeah. The CIA is a power under its own. Until which time it's defunded and eliminated, it will continue to do whatever the hell it wants to do. And because the budget is so black in many of these things, it's not easy for even a Tulsi Gabbard to come in, a DNI to come in and start, messing around, because she'll get shut out and money's hidden here, there, and everywhere. And I just think that Burns was basically there to say, I'm here, the CIA is here, we'll always be here, and you can count on us, sort of thing. A very public display of support at a time when Europe is desperate for, because remember, he's not just playing, the reason why this was made public isn't because it's done for the benefit of Zelensky. It's done for the benefit of everybody watching this. You have Europe right now panicking. What's going to happen when Trump comes in? And at least now people in the European capitals go, yeah, but the CIA is there. And the CIA, if you've been playing this game in Ukraine, that everybody knows that the CIA is there. The CIA is there in spades. And so this is sort of meant to reassure European allies and Ukrainians alike that, there's at least one element, a major element of the United States government that is committing to continuing this support of Ukraine. That's what I think is going on. Because otherwise, why the hell have a public meeting?
Yeah. Yesterday, Putin said that war was declared on the Russian world today. And do you think that the special military operation is changing its face in the mind of Putin before Donald Trump come into office?
I don't know. Look, I know what I would do, and I'm sure the general staff in Russia have a lot more experience and know their country far better. But I guess I'm sort of surprised that they haven't just dropped every bridge across the Dnieper River to prevent any kind of resupply to the Ukrainian army that's east of the Dnieper, and then focus upon destroying any attempts to set up an alternative logistic resupply, and just choke off the army, starve them out completely. Now, I'm sure the Russians have thought this through, and they have a good reason for not doing it. But it is true they're achieving some remarkable progress now on the ground across the entire line of contact throughout, primarily in the Donbass, but in Donetsk, up into Luhansk, but also in Kursk, where they're have encircled the Ukrainians there. And the Ukrainians are dying at a horrific pace. But, I am a little puzzled with Putin saying, oh, well, the world's at war with us. Hello, you just figure that out? The United States and the United Kingdom, they've been at war with Russia now for at least 10 years. The Russians were just sort of, I don't want to say naive, but they're far more mature and adults, thinking that maybe we can sit down and talk, maybe we can reason. And my message to them would be, God bless you. You've got a good intent, but understand that what you're dealing with over here is pure evil. These folks in Washington and London have no intention whatsoever of wanting to sit down and have peace with the Russians and respect the Russians as equals. That's why they're participating and enabling these terrorist attacks. They are, the United States and the United Kingdom, I believe with all my heart, have been directly involved in these terrorist attacks inside Russia.
Yeah. Scott.
I agree. I mean, it's mind-boggling. The only thing I'll add to this is that, I've and Ray McGovern, Larry's boyfriend, taught me a long time ago when it comes to, because I consider myself to be a Russian hand. I mean, that's if I was going to say there's one area that I can hold my own against most people, it would be the Russia, issue and things of that nature, especially as it pertains to arms control. But at the end of the day, I'm just a Marine intelligence officer who gets excited about silly things and maybe doesn't see the big picture that you should see all the time. I'm always learning. I'm always in learning mode because I understand my shortcomings. In Ray's a guy who's been teaching me. I listen to everything Ray tells me, and he said a long time ago, just listen to the Russians. They're telling you exactly what they're thinking and doing. There's no code. There's no, gamesmanship like being done in Washington, D.C. Listen to what they say and you'll understand what they mean because they're saying it. You just have to listen to it. So, and he was at that time talking about the old art of, Larry, you remember the good old days when, especially when Brezhnev was kicking the bucket and then Dropov was coming in and then he kicked the bucket and then Chernenko came in. And you had the Sovietologists who look at the photographs of all the guys up there on Victory Day or May Day. They didn't have Victory Day back then, May Day and all this kind of stuff. And you're saying, okay, he's 3 centimeters closer to the big man, and this guy's 5 centimeters back, and this guy isn't even there right now. And what does this all mean? And then you sit there and they write big papers about Politburo internal dynamics based upon photo analysis of placement on the stage. And Ray's going, don't do that. Don't waste your time doing that. Go pick up the FBIS, the Foreign Broadcast Information Service, which was it used to be CIA run, and then they turned it into, I guess it was always CIA up until the very end.
Yeah.
But it was open source for official use only. I mean, it wasn't meant to be because of copyright issues, but you could get it. I got it when I was in college, so it's not a problem. But you could read all the Soviet newspapers. You'd get the transcripts of the radio broadcasts, the television broadcasts, and you'd hear what the Soviets are saying to themselves. And it was always just spot on, accurate. And so I listened to Vladimir Putin, and I listened to every word he says. And I've come away with the fact that he doesn't waste any words. Every word he says is for a reason. And the way he says it, whether it's with humor, because there's times when he'll put out soldiers' humor there that normally, Russians are prudish in public, in public statements. They don't like to tell racy jokes in public, but there are times when Putin will throw out something like that for a reason. He's trying to achieve a an impact on those who are listening to him. And when he speaks about foreign leaders, I mean, I remember I had to laugh. If you remember, Angela Merkel met with him, and Putin brought his dog out, and she's of course afraid of dogs. So she said, you know, Putin did this to specific. And Putin later came out and said, I didn't know. You're Vladimir Putin, former head of the KGB. You knew damn well what you were doing, and you did it for a reason. You're setting the stage to dominate Angela Merkel, to put her at ease, at ill ease. Nothing's by accident. I'm not calling him a liar. I mean, I'm just saying that everything he does is for a reason. And so when he speaks about Donald Trump, if you remember when after Trump got elected, Putin gave a speech where he said, you know, Trump is a brave man. He was shot. He said all the things that you need to say to have Donald Trump go, what? Say that again? Oh yeah, that makes me feel good. I'm a brave man. I'm a big man. I'm a hero, man. Did you see the way I got up? Putin says that it's impressed him and all that kind of, I mean, he's sitting there stroking Trump to death on this kind of stuff, which means now when he says something like Russia, the world is now at war with the Russian nation, or whatever that phrase was, I think Putin knows that Trump is surrounded by idiots about Russia. I mean, Keith Kellogg is, with all due respect to a former lieutenant general whose heroism is beyond doubt. I'm not criticizing, you know, this man won the Silver Star in Vietnam for doing things that, running under fire to rescue wounded soldiers. You know, you'll never hear me say anything bad about this man as a professional warrior. But when it comes to Russia, he knows jack squat, and he shouldn't open his mouth. He shouldn't opine on anything because he just embarrasses himself. And he was recently talking about, you know, the Ukrainians have suffered 170,000 casualties, while Russia has suffered 6 times as many. And if you're the Russians, you're just going, we can't deal with this moron. Don't send him over here. So I think a lot of the statements that Putin is making right now, because he has, you know, not quite 30 days, but you know, we're under 30 days until Trump becomes president. But a lot can happen during that time. This is the time when Putin, I believe, is shaping Trump's world. And a lot of what he's going to say and a lot of what he's going to do is designed to influence Trump to be in the right place on January 20th. Because Trump's not in the right place right now. He's saying some of the right things, but he's saying some pretty stupid things too. And if Trump comes to the table with the stupid things, Russia's just going to ignore him. And that'll be a missed opportunity. I think Putin wants the first thing that Trump puts on the table to be something that Russia can grab onto and begin a process of negotiating an end to this conflict that meets Russian goals and objectives. Because if they don't, then you start, you know, now you have Trump getting defensive and, you know, peace through strength, and then start posturing, you know, all this nonsense about he's going to flood Europe with money and get NATO to start sending more weapons into Ukraine, you know, and all the Russians will do is blow all that crap up too. Putin doesn't want to do that. And so I think you're going to see carefully released words and sentences of this nature that are his way of informing Team Trump and informing Trump himself about the reality of Russia. And I'd love to talk to Tucker. He probably wouldn't admit this, but I personally think that Tucker was some sort of back channel envoy sent by Team Trump to Russia to have a conversation with Lavrov, but also to send signals and receive signals. These signals may have been private or they may have been done in public, but to create a framework of thought and ideas around which a sound Russian policy could be built. But Trump has to free himself of Keith Kellogg and people of that ilk, because they are truly ignorant of Russia. And I think a lot of what Putin is saying right now is designed to bypass those people and get straight to Trump, who listens to everything Putin says.
Yeah, here is Financial Times reporting that Donald Trump said to Europeans that he's going to continue supporting Ukraine. And Larry, do you think that, does it have anything to do with the reality of what's going on in the mindset of Donald Trump, or they're just making things up?
Trump is being lied to by his intelligence briefers. And we discovered that when this whole Time Person of the Year coverage came out. And in Trump's interview with the Times reporter, Time magazine reporter, he said that he referred to the terrible loss of life in the war in Ukraine. And he talked about the 600,000 casualties that Russia had suffered versus the 400,000 that Ukraine had suffered, and said it was just terrible, but that's what he was being told. Well, that's, to use Ray McGovern's exquisite term, that's male bovine excrement. That's the MBE, and it's not being awarded by the King of England or the Queen of England. It is nonsense. It's not true. But the point is, if the intelligence community is simply taking what Ukraine's given them and then passing it off as authentic intelligence to Trump or to Biden or to whoever else, then right away you've built in these false expectations, false beliefs that they think, oh yeah, well, Russia's weak. Russia's on the ropes. Russia's desperate for a deal. So by God, we're going to go there and make him a deal. Well, that's a lie. None of that's true. It's just the opposite. Russia's winning. Russia holds all the trump cards. The United States doesn't have anything to offer Russia other than we're going to stop funding Ukraine. We're going to pull out the CIA and close all those bases that we put in Ukraine. And just as a parenthetical comment or side note, during the war in Afghanistan, over 18 years, CIA didn't have more than 6 bases scattered throughout Afghanistan, okay? And that was during a full-blown war there. And here in Ukraine, we had over 20. There's a lot to this story that we do not know in terms of the CIA involvement with the Ukrainians. But it'll be an ugly story once it comes out. But still, the point is, Trump's being lied to, and by virtue of being lied to, he's not on a solid footing to even have substantive negotiations with Russia, because what he's going to offer them is nonsense.
Scott, how desperate is the situation in the mind of the Biden administration right now, and what we can expect from them before Donald Trump takes office?
In the mind of Biden or the Biden administration? Because in the mind of Biden, there ain't nothing going on in the mind of Biden right now. And we can say that with a smile, but actually this is extremely dangerous situation. Even the New York Times, which is historically protective of Biden, has admitted this man is virtually brain dead. The stories that are coming out about his lack of preparation, his lack of focus, and how he's controlled. He can't be president. And then, interestingly enough, the story also talks about how they bypass the Defense Department about Ukraine, about a situation where the Defense Department is, with the exception of the CIA's 20 bases, the Defense Department was the lead on all this. And the person that's bypassing all this is Tony Blinken, the Secretary of State, who, by the way, I think is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the chain of command in succession to the presidency. You got the president, the vice president, Speaker of the House, the Senate pro tempore, or whatever the hell they call that. Oh, 5th. Okay, so then I think the Secretary of State comes after that. And I think that Blinken, basically, Kamala Harris is a non-entity. She doesn't factor into anything, especially after her embarrassing defeat. Biden's brain dead. The Speaker of the House can just be left out. The Secretary of State doesn't have any obligation. The Secretary of State is now the President of the United States. I just put that out there for people to consider. And this is a man who is seeking to destroy any chance that Trump has of salvaging the failures of the Biden administration. They're desperate right now. I mean, I will say this, that unless something changes in the next Congress, which gets sworn in, on the 3rd of January or something of that nature, Blinken will probably get away with this, but he really should be impeached and should be held to account by Congress and charged with, literal treason, because everything he's doing, he's not authorized to do. He's not authorized to make presidential decisions. He's not the president of the United States. He's not authorized to shield the reality of the president's declining mental acuity to members of government. He's not authorized to bypass the Department of Defense when it comes to critical issues pertaining to the defense of the United States, but he's doing it, probably with the help of Jake Sullivan at the National Security Council. These two people should be put up, and you can't impeach Sullivan because he's a national security advisor. There was no Senate confirmation process, but Blinken should be impeached, should be questioned, and should be held to account legally for what he's doing here. This is criminal. We keep calling ourselves a democracy, but this isn't a democracy if you can have a rogue Secretary of State believing that he gets to be the president of the United States de facto, because we have a brain dead president, a non-functioning vice president, and clueless House and Senate about what's going on. So this is a very dangerous situation. But I do believe that the closer we get to January 20th, and the more real Trump's efforts to disrupt the establishment become. Again, I don't like going off on tangents, but Team Trump, includes this unelected duo called Elon Musk and Vivek. And with one tweet, Elon Musk did what nobody else in Congress could do: kill a bill that that Mike Johnson was trying to sneak through. One tweet. And it enraged the public so much that the intervention compelled Congress to do so. I think that's beautiful. I think that's democracy in action, to awaken the people, to inform them of things going. But this scares the hell out of the establishment. The fact that Trump is coming in not using the tools that are normally used, the tools that have been taken over by the establishment, manipulated by the establishment. Trump's coming in with a whole new way of doing business, to include the weaponization of information through X. And they don't know how to deal with it. And so there's a lot of talk now that they're going to burn the house down rather than turn it over to Trump. And that's very dangerous.
Yeah. Elon Musk, who's not interested in war with Russia, with Iran, I do believe that he's not interested in any sort of war with China as well. Is he going to achieve it because these people who are right now, who are going to work with Donald Trump, are much more powerful, Scott and Larry. He did this on X, and when this administration comes to power in Washington, are they going to be Vivek and Elon Musk? How powerful they're going to be, in your opinion?
Well, no, Vivek and Musk are, they're going to have some limited power because they're not a direct member of the cabinet. Yeah, they've got the direct approach to Trump, but never underestimate the power of bureaucracy to create obstacles, slow walk things, and create hindrances and roadblocks. So the best we could hope for is that all these government employees who've been posting on Twitter/X and other social media that, by God, if these Trump people come in, we're going to quit. Let's hope that that's true. If they quit, then that'll make Vivek and Elon's job much easier. Elon's making out really well with the Pentagon, with his Starlink system. I think it's called Star Shield for the military, because I was told that last year they did an emergency order for 4,000 satellites to be put up under Star Shield, and that was money that went into Elon's pocket. And now this year they've had another big backdoor cyber event that the Chinese U.S. Department of Justice required backdoors to be put into the whole phone network that the government uses for even secure classified communications using a particular app on government-issued cell phones. Well, the Chinese broke that, have been in it apparently for 2 years, so now the word's circulating that DOD is going to turn all of that communication contracts that used to go to AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile. They're going to turn it all over to Musk, and they're going to go through Starshield. So, Musk is, he's doing okay. He's got the Democrats. He's living rent free in their head, because they were already calling him President Musk because of his. He's got a lot of influence, and he's not afraid to use it, and using it, he's also making a lot of money.
Yeah, I will just add this though. He's unelected. He carries no real power, meaning he doesn't have the power of the government. But I think the most recent tweet proves something. We've talked in the past about AIPAC and the power of the Israeli lobby, and one of the things that they have is the ability to primary you, and especially in congressional politics, being primaried is the kiss of death. It's very difficult to run a contested primary and survive because you burn up all your resources. So even if you win, you're rolling in weakened. Plus, if it's a vicious primary, your Republican or your co-party opponent is throwing out all the dirt on you and everything, destroying you, and that's just free ammunition for when you get to the big game. And so the AIPAC just threatens to primary you, and that's enough to bring most people into compliance, to say, well, we don't want to be primaried, so we're going to play the game here. I think you're going to see Musk and Vivek play the primary game. They have the ability to mobilize instantly in any district they want, hundreds of thousands of people. This is an unprecedented weapon because it's not about buying a vote, which is what AIPAC does, bring $100 million in. This is simply it doesn't cost Musk anything to tweet or to post or whatever the hell you call it, exit or something, whatever you call it on X. And all he has to do is throw the spotlight on a representative and say, this is the person that caused this to happen. I think he needs to be primaried. And that guy's in hot water. And I think this is a new level of political leverage that Trump's going to make ample use of. And you combine Trump's social media presence, which when he's president, he has to be careful about how he uses that, with Musk's, who doesn't have to worry about anything. And suddenly a senator who might otherwise say, well, I'm in the United States Senate and my job is to slow roll things and be the mature head here and not that. And you're saying, yeah, but dude, you're up for re-election in 2026 and you're going to get primaried and you're going to lose. Suddenly he's going to be like, Donald Trump's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and I believe that we should do whatever Donald Trump wants because I want to stay in power for another 6 years. How many elected officials have the courage to say, I don't give a damn what Trump thinks or Musk thinks. I'm going to do the right thing. Well, you can do that and become unemployed. And I applaud that. I wish more people would do that. But most of them are politicians because they want to stay in power, and they will be chameleons. And right now, the prevailing color is the color of Trump, Musk, and Vivek. And I think you're going to see a lot of members of Congress who otherwise might have done what Larry says, provide the bureaucratic obstacles to slow roll things. I think with the ability of Musk and Vivek to put a spotlight on these people and call them out and threaten primaries, that you're going to see a lot less opposition to some things. Just look at this bill. This thing was supposed to slide through. Nobody's supposed to talk about it. 1,100 pages, and Musk sends out a tweet, and instantly the government's shutting down. It's down to 110 pages and on through. I'm not saying it made America better. I'm just saying that a lot of people who didn't want that to happen made it happen because of the power of a tweet sent out by Elon Musk.
Yeah. We had an interaction between Israel and Yemen, and here is the footage of hypersonic missile coming from Yemen, And you see these two interceptors that fail to hit the missile, and the missile hits the target. And here is this footage is better. It shows how two interceptors going up and they fail to hit the missile.
Whoops.
And here comes the
There it is, dropping down.
and coming and hitting the target, getting out of the hand of the Biden administration. I don't know if they're interested in continuing this way.
Well, yeah, it can't get out of hand if you never had it in your hand in the first place. You know, that's the problem with the Biden administration. Look, the Houthis, they've been kicking the U.S. ass for a year. Yeah, we bomb them, we blow up some sand, we take out some infrastructure in Sana'a. But go back to Lloyd Austin and his pompous announcement back in December of 2023 about Operation Prosperity Guardian, and we're going to reopen the Red Sea, and we're going to bring an end to this lawless behavior by the Houthis. Well, here we are a year later, and I don't ever want to hear another Western pundit say a damn thing about Russia's lack of progress against Ukraine. At least with Ukraine, Russia's been fighting a real army. Here's the United States that can't beat basically a 15th century army that's armed with some modern day weapons. You know, they've shut down the Red Sea, and they can launch missiles into Israel that evade Israeli air defense systems. You know, maybe the United States ought to hire the Houthis as consultants to, you know, hey, maybe you could help us work out how to win some wars here. Because the Houthis sure doing a damn sight better than the United States has been.
Scott, your take.
Yeah, I was just tickled pink to watch that missile come in. Again, I'm not in favor of civilian casualties. I'm not happy if people, I think 18 people were injured on the ground. You know, I'm not cheering that. What I'm cheering is the fact that the arrogance of Israel and the United States, because there's some talk that may have been a THAAD system, not a Patriot or something. I don't know but there's some talk that may have been a THAAD system, which is the most advanced American interceptor out there. And the Houthi beat it. I mean, I'm in communication with people that know a little bit about Ansarallah, and we do them a disservice by mocking. I'm guilty of it. I talk about sandals and curved daggers,
curved knives, yeah.
But they also produce hypersonic missiles, and they have some of the finest engineers around, and they're capable of very advanced thinking when it comes to military operations. They just fired a missile that defeated the most advanced air defense anti-ballistic missile defense system in the West. And it defeated it handily. I mean, you saw that missile accelerate past. I wish Ted Polster was here, because he was famous during the Gulf War of doing a frame-by-frame analysis of the intercepts and the Iraqi Scuds coming in, and they're just missing. And here you have these two things. They're using these aren't kinetic hits. They're using a warhead that's supposed to spray out and like a shotgun shell and get the shrapnel hit, but the warhead's already past it by the time it shoots. I mean, so there was no chance of hitting this thing. And the Houthi aren't stupid. They're good engineers. I have a feeling that warhead was doing sort of like a stutter step. What I mean by that is the missile brings it in, and then by the time it separates, because they study our architecture. They understand where the X-band radar is picking them up and how that tracks and at what point you're going to get that launch. And understand that once you launch that missile's now committed to an algorithm of intercept. Now it has some adjustments. That's why you see the interceptor do this S maneuver, because it's launched and then it's making some adjustments to the thing. And right about here, as it's adjusted, I think what you saw is that war had accelerated, and they didn't have time to. It accelerated right past them. This is pretty advanced stuff. This isn't, Abdul in the sandbox sitting there, sharpening his curved blade on a rock, picking his toenails. No, these are guys who are studying some of the most advanced military technology in the world today, mastering it and coming up with the ability to defeat it. Mm-hmm. And if you think you can bomb Ansarallah into submission, then you know nothing about the history of these people, and you know nothing about the history of the region. These are some of the most resilient, steadfast people ever. And they don't break, they die. You can kill them. You can starve them to death. You can blow them up, but you can't break them. And we will break and bend long before they do. I mean, this is the one bright spot of the axis of resistance in the aftermath of the fall of Syria, is that Ansarallah is just saying, we're here. And they saw their statement. If you make Sana'a shake, Tel Aviv will shake twice as much tonight. And they're firing. They'll be firing tonight, guaranteed. And there will probably be the Palestine 2 type missile, hypersonic, can't be beat. And I just hope they get their targeting better. It'd be nice to see them take out the Kiryat, the Ministry of Defense. It would be nice for them to bring real harm, real pain to the Israeli government, hit the Knesset, hit seats of government. What's Israel going to do? Bomb you more? I mean, so these guys, it's not that they don't care. Of course they care, but you're not going to break them. They are committed. They beat the United States Navy. They beat the United States Navy. They forced us to retreat from the field of battle. Now we're back for round 2, but they beat us the first time around. We didn't achieve our mission. They continued their mission. I'm just filled with admiration and for these people. Not because I'm sitting here saying that I'm all in on the Houthi cause. I am, but I'm not allowed to say that because I'm supposed to be an impartial analyst. I'm just impressed with the way they have behaved. If they were my enemy, I would say I would give them the highest respect and the highest regard. I would still spend my every waking moment trying to defeat them. But at least, I wouldn't sit there in my mind and say these people are unworthy of doing battle with. They're the most worthy opponent imaginable because they are so tough and resilient and unbending.
Israeli Broadcasting Corporation, Khan, it's citing sources that Israel is trying to build an alliance against the Houthis and Ansarallah in Yemen. Who's going to be in this alliance, Larry, in your opinion?
I don't know. United States, United Kingdom. I don't think it's going to be Egypt. They're going to try to get Jordan, but I think the weakness that's been displayed by the United States, I think is really surprised and alarmed some of the traditional, the Saudis, the Jordanians, and the Egyptians. They're sort of the big three there in the region, apart from Israel. And I guess they always assumed that the United States had a technological military edge. Now the Houthis have exposed that completely. It's astonishing. And Scott's right. And I like to make fun and really portray them as the ultimate underdog. Heavy emphasis on sandals and curved knives. But they're building some pretty sophisticated missiles. And they've been fighting, this war's been going on for well over, I think, 10 years. And they've been fighting the United States as a proxy as well. And the Saudis, they've been using mercenaries, essentially. The Saudis don't actually go out and fight for their country. They always hire somebody else to go do it. the Houthis have sent a clear message throughout the world that, you know what, the United States may not be as tough as it says it is, because we fought them to a standstill for more than 12 months. Remarkable.
Scott, do you think that Donald Trump would be able to convince Saudi Arabia to change its manner toward Houthis?
I think Donald Trump is going to try very hard to get Saudi Arabia to change its manner. And I don't have confidence in Saudi Arabia's ability to stand up in the long term, that the pressure that Trump can bring to bear will probably cause the Saudis to reverse their current public posture, which is that they will never normalize the relations with Israel until which time there's an independent Palestinian state whose capital is in East Jerusalem. Trump is also talking about something that's fascinating, recognizing in Somalia you have a singular nation, but you've got Somalia down here with Mogadishu as the capital. In the middle, you got Puntland or something of that nature, and then up north you've got something that was on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember. Somaliland, I don't know. They call it something different up north, and Eritrea is doing business with them, treating them as an independent state, seeking port access, etc. Not Eritrea, I'm sorry, Ethiopia, and Trump has said he'll recognize them as an independent state. This is a fascinating thing for Trump to commit to. I mean, of all the places in the earth, all the geopolitical crises that are taking place, Trump takes the time to say, yeah, this Somaliland or whatever they're calling it up north, I'm going to recognize that as an independent state. Until you look at the map, and literally it's right across the water from Yemen. And then now you realize that what Trump is going to seek to do is, if this problem continues, he's going to build bases, deploy troops, and suddenly we have the ability to project power in a more meaningful fashion, sustainable fashion, and less risky fashion than just using aircraft carriers or long range bombers flying out of wherever they came from, maybe Al Udeid Air Base or something. But this means that Trump is being briefed on a larger anti-Iranian strategy designed to roll back the axis of resistance and Iran itself. So I think that Israel, even though Biden's the president, Israel doesn't care about. Just keep the weapons going. That's all they care about at this point in time. Israel understands who the real power in the United States is right now, and it's Donald Trump. And Israel is starting to, pave the way forward for the policies they'd like to see implemented under Trump. And I think you're seeing that already. There's a sort of, the two sides working together. Israel talking about creating this anti-Houthi coalition, and Donald Trump, starting to, indicate what kind of pieces are going to be, put on that board. So, I think it is. Does it mean they're going to win? No. Again, the Houthi don't bend, they don't break, and they can outlast a lot of people. As Larry said, this has been going on for 10 years. 4 more years for the Houthi, they'll do it. And then Trump's not president anymore. And then the question is, who's going to be president, and what are they willing to sacrifice to continue a fight that appears not to be winnable?
How about the meeting between Iran, Egypt, and Turkey, Scott? Do you think that still Turkey is thinking of having Aleppo and those cities as part of Turkey? They're going to capture it? Because recently Erdogan was talking about the sovereignty of Syria should be respected. It seems that they're not going to capture it, and they're talking to Israelis right now. How do you see the situation between Turkey and Israel?
Me or Larry?
Larry, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, Pezeshkian is still, I think he's been following advice from Uncle Vladimir in Moscow to keep his powder dry, show that you are the reasonable one in terms of diplomacy, and to try to keep doors open. With Turkey, both Iran and Turkey, they share something in common, or at least a couple of things. One, I think both are concerned about the use of the illegal narcotics trafficking and the criminal drug gangs that are operating in Syria and involving and affecting populations in Turkey and in Iran. Then you got the Kurds. Neither Iran nor Turkey want to see an independent Kurdish nation come to pass. Pezeshkian, I think, going to Egypt is just trying to gauge how much water al-Sisi is ready to still carry for the West, because I don't see Iran's support for Hamas or even Hezbollah slackening, and I think a lot of Western analysts have overstated. Yeah, the fall of Syria creates I call it a temporary logistics problem for Iran moving weapons to Hezbollah. But last I checked, that area of the world, I believe, has been a major smuggling route for about 3,000 years. And it's a lot of territory, and that neither the United States nor Turkey nor Israel have the manpower, woman power, people power to cover it. And Iran, despite having sanctions, still has some money, and there's still some good border guards out there to be bought, and so the smuggling is going to continue, and so Hezbollah's ability to fight Israel is not, I don't see, is going to be significantly weakened, and if anything, it's going to be Turkey and Israel, and to a lesser extent Jordan, that are going to be weakened by this adventure. Israel doesn't have the manpower to police another big area that's 4 times the size of Gaza. Hell, they can't even control Gaza. But yeah, we can't control Gaza, but let's go chop off another big chunk of territory. So we have another logistics line that we got to support. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I'd hate to be the logs guy in the Israeli army. He's got to have like snow white hair, looks like Doc Brown from Back to the Future. Just terrified at it. So, I see Pezeshkian. Iran's biding its time because they recognize Israel's going to try to come for them. And I can't emphasize this enough. The Israelis and Washington genuinely believe that Israel wiped out Iran's air defense system, that Iran is really weak and it's fractured politically, and all they've got to do is just push him a little bit, and it's going to come crumbling down just like Assad did. They really believe that, and that's why I think they're going to do something stupid. And the only, maybe I shouldn't call it the bright side, but I look at it on the bright side when someone gets awakened to reality, that when Israel's attack fails, and they get the equivalent of a punch in the nose, then maybe they'll wake up and say, maybe we have to find a different way of doing this as opposed to genocide.
Scott.
I don't have too much to add to what Larry said. I'll say this about Turkey. If you don't think Turkey's going to raise the flag over Aleppo or Idlib, you don't know Turkey. This is historically, Erdogan has been saying all along, this land is ours. It belongs to us. But Erdogan's going to be smart about this. Is by insisting that that the world respects Syrian sovereignty, it's more of a play against. He wants the United States out of northeastern Turkey. He wants Israel to back off and pull back, not to be slicing up things, so that stability can enter in. And then what you're going to see Erdogan do, and I would put a lot of money on this in Vegas if they ever open the books on this, is in a period of time prior to his next presidential election, Turkey's going to hold referendum, and there will be a vote, and these territories will vote to become affiliated with Turkey. and to break away. And they'll cite the United Nations Charter and the right of self-determination and all this kind of stuff. And that's the direction. Turkey's not giving up Aleppo. They own it. It's theirs. Goodbye. The Arab world was dumb enough to let it fall. Idlib is forever part of Turkey now. Is de facto functioning as an extension of Turkey. And I think you're going to see Turkey make a move on Raqqa in an effort to seize territory to create a buffer between Turkey and whatever Kurdish enclave exists when Turkey's finished militarily cleansing its borders. As to, going into, Hama, Homs, and Damascus, which Erdogan alluded to in a statement to his political party. Now, I don't think Turkey is seeking to seize those, but they will control them. And they will be forever under the Turkish sphere of influence. They will become a de facto extension of this new pan-Turkic, empire that Erdogan plans on building. And I will just tell the Iraqi government, understand that he's coming from Mosul as well. And that's just the reality. He wants to reverse what he believes is the mistakes made at the end of World War I. The two treaties, the one that took place right at the end of the war, and then what Treaty of Lausanne in 1923 that solidified the borders. He says those were mistakes, and that history should have kept these territories with Turkey. So that's the direction he's going. The meeting he has right now, understand this: Erdogan has betrayed everybody. There's nobody in the region right now that says he's a straight up player. He's a straight shooter. His word is his bond. He's coming in and he's trying to play the game to get tactical advantage or whatever. But everybody knows who he's a snake, and nobody's gonna you have to deal with him because he's a reality. But the idea that Erdogan's coming in to build trust and get people to agree to some larger geopolitical plan, everybody knows what's going on. This is a Turkish power grab, and right now nations are on their back feet. But when they finally get settled, we'll see what happens.
Hey, Scott, I checked Roger's Thesaurus, and they give credit for the phrase, "I've got your back," to Erdogan. So,
Yes, but it's not the way we mean it. That's more of a Lawrence Arabia and Dara kind of "I got your back."
Yeah, exactly right.
Everybody's talking about that Russia and Iran war. Even Professor Morandi in Iran, I talked with him. He said that it was a defeat for Iran and Russia. But on the other hand, Syria's largest oil refinery has ceased operation due to Iran halting crude oil shipments to Syria. It was a huge burden for Russia and Iran because of the situation with their military, with their economy. And right now it seems that all the problems are on the shoulders of Turkey, the United States, and Israel. Is that the case, Larry?
Well, I mean, look, neither Russia nor Iran have a border with Syria. So, it's not their immediate problem. It most certainly is a problem for Turkey, for Iraq, for Jordan, and for Israel. And the United States, by inserting itself, I mean, my God, just the news yesterday that they lifted the $10 million terrorism reward off of al-Jawani's head. I mean, this guy was not just some sort of bit player with ISIS. He was central to ISIS, having direct relations and being sort of a protege of al-Baghdadi going back to 2014. Directly involved with beheadings, murders. I posted a video at sonar21.com last night of that Jordanian pilot that ISIS set afire. I mean, it's horrific stuff. That's who this guy is. And for the last, go back to 2017, Al-Hayat Tahrir al-Sham has been listed as one of the top 10 most active terrorist groups in the world. In the last report for 2023, they were the third most active of all ISIS groups, because they get lumped under ISIS. You know, ISIS, the granddaddy, and they're one of the grandchildren. And so we get heartburn over bad Bashar al-Assad. Bashir never killed anybody with his own bare hands. He may have ordered some people to be killed, and indirectly, but we're dealing with someone who is an actual, honest to God, hands-on, I've killed women, children, civilians, and that's who we're saying, hey, this is a great guy. This is going to bite us in the ass some kind of hard.
Yeah. You know, Russia went in at the invitation of Syria. Russia didn't invade Syria. They didn't occupy Syria. They didn't use Syria as a base for power projection. They went in to stabilize Syria in their own vested interests. It was described early on as a counter-terrorist operation. People need to look at a map and understand that what the CIA, Turkish intelligence, everybody else was creating in Syria was a festering cesspool of Islamic fundamentalism, radical Islamic fundamentalism that, again, go back and look at the second Chechen war, who Russia was fighting. They fought Chechens, but during that conflict, unlike the first conflict, you had a large number of foreign Wahhabists coming in, brought in by the CIA to destabilize that region. And Russia is very concerned that if you allow terrorist organizations to take control, that they will be used, directed by the CIA, to go north and destabilize southern and northern Caucasus and move inland, maybe into Tatarstan, Bashkiria, other Muslim territories. So, this is problematic for the Russians. On the one hand, legally speaking, they can say, well, Bashar's gone, our mission's over, we need to go. But Russia's very interested in making sure that Syria doesn't become this, the Afghanistan of our day, meaning, back Afghanistan in the 1990s, where, people could meet and plot and carry out, things, global terrorist, planning with Al-Qaeda, etc. They don't want Syria to become the heartbeat of the infusion of terrorism into Russia. But look at HTS, large number of Uzbeks, large number of Turkmen, Uyghurs, who could be Kazakh. The bottom line is these are the same ethnic groups that live in day-to-day Russia, in every city that does the construction work, taxi driving. They're the Russian Mexicans. I know I'm going to get killed for that and be called racist, but it's the truth. We have a large number of immigrant labor coming out of Mexico and Latin America that we rely upon. And Russia relies upon a large pool of immigrant labor coming from Central Asian republics. And those nationalities are represented in HTS, who have now been radicalized. And if I'm a CIA case officer tasked with disrupting Russia, which they are tasked with, go to the Russian Mission Center and ask them what their number one mission is. Is it to learn about Russia so we can hug them, or is it to, as Larry said, get their back? And the CIA is not there to do good things for Russia. They're there to bring Russia down, and they will use this. And Russia knows this. Russia's experienced this before in the Chechen War. This is a huge problem for Russia. So I do agree that this is a strategic defeat for Russia, not in terms of, what we think in terms of power projection, etc. But Russia went into Syria to prevent it from becoming what it just became, a terrorist-controlled state that's going to devolve into anarchy and have the possibility, the potential, the probability of having this anarchy projected into Russia, causing more terrorism and maybe even, what happens if Ramzan Kadyrov dies suddenly, and there's a power struggle inside Chechnya on who's going to replace him between clans and Chechen clans, and suddenly the CIA starts infusing Islamic violence into the mix, we now have a potential for a third Chechen conflict. Russia doesn't want this. Chechnya doesn't want this. Dagestan doesn't want this. And yet this is what the CIA is going to do. So this is a very, very dangerous situation for Russia. And I do believe this represents a defeat for Russia. And Russia's struggling to figure out how they're going to respond to this. Iran, look, the axis of resistance was dependent upon the Syrian land bridge. Larry may be right that they're able to reconstitute alternatives to this using traditional smuggling routes, etc. But even though, no matter how good a smuggling route is, it's not as good as a highway connecting Al Qaim to Lebanon and having the free flow of truck-borne traffic. It's still going to be diminished, but it's also Iran's on its back feet right now. They have a political crisis taking place inside Iran between Pezeshkian and I'm sure I mispronounced that, but so I apologize to every Iranian out there. I mispronounce my own name sometimes. I'll just call him the new Iranian president, and the supreme leader and the IRGC. There's a political tug of war taking place where the new president appears to want to. And a statement came out today. I have to be careful because Professor Morandi corrected me. I like everybody else, every once in a while you see a tweet that you just look at and say, that looks like it's a real tweet. It's a serious tweet. And it was connected to a Persian news bulletin in the Persian language. But, they said that the Iranian president had basically slow rolled True Promise 2, didn't want it to happen, but it happened and he's unhappy about it. And Professor Morandi came back to me and said, no, that's fake news. Don't use that. So I'll take one more effort to withdraw that statement. I'm no longer saying that, but there, a tweet came out today or a news release that said that the Iranians once again have signaled that they are willing to have talks with the United States as long as the United States treats Iran with respect and things of that nature. That's the direction this president wants to go. It's the exact opposite of trying to, reconnect the axis of resistance and double down on dealing with Israel and threatening True Promise 3. So Iran is suffered a strategic setback as well. And so, yeah, I think both Russia and Iran have come out of this diminished, not fatally so, but diminished. And Turkey and Israel, I think, are the big winners here. The United States is still playing catch up. You can't attribute anything to the Biden administration because of the brain dead status of the president. Trump still isn't president, so the United States is this force in waiting that will be a very relevant force. But right now, Turkey and Israel are the big winners in this.
Hey, but let me first, Scott, remember back the Pez dispenser?
Yeah.
Pez Zeshkin.
Pez
Zeshkin.
Zeshkin. Pez Zeshkin.
Zeshkin.
All right.
Zeshkin.
Position, yeah. That's
so
correct.
Yeah,
I can't say President P.
Yeah, well, you could do that too.
No, that would insult. I'm joking, everybody out there. I'm not. I just have trouble.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that meme that was done when I would try and say Bab el Mandeb?
No.
I butchered it a million times. I would say, and finally I said it right. And some very clever person on Twitter. There's one where they show me saying it. Blah 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 blah. And finally I say it right, and there's a crowd of people. I finally got it right. So one day I'll pronounce the Iranian president's name properly.
Let me just make one observation about the difference that we saw with Syria in terms of Russia and Iran's response as compared to what the United States, if the roles had been reversed and the United States was in Syria as Russia and Iran were in Syria, and trying to prop up a government where, let's face it, Bashar al-Assad was the equivalent of your brother-in-law who's a drug addict or an alcoholic and refuses to clean his act up. and you keep trying to get him to clean it up, and you keep trying offering, you're lending him money, you're offering training, you say, hey, I'll get you counseling. Bashar al-Assad was offered everything in the world that Russia and Iran were trying to help, and he refused to meet with Erdogan, refused to attend the BRICS summit, rejected additional military support, directed additional aid that would have actually improved a lot of his officers. Now, if that had been the United States, we would have killed his ass and installed somebody else. We would have made sure that we're not going to let go, man. We're going to hang in there. Whereas Russia and Iran said, the guy's going to have to hit rock bottom. We can't, there's only so far we can go with what we can do. And yeah, we walk away. Yeah, it could be embarrassing. The United States is going to say it's going to be embarrassing. But the last thing I didn't see in Syria were a bunch of Syrians running for Russian airplanes, hanging on to them and falling 200 feet to their death. I didn't see a bunch of Syrians clustered around with Russian guards or Iranian guards getting blown up with a suicide bomber. I mean, that shit happens with America. So, what we saw here was, if you will, sort of hope for what I call a more civilized response to, the United States, Great Britain, with the Turks and the Israelis doing everything they could to overthrow the government of Bashar al-Assad. And Russia and Iran finally said, yeah, we could stay in here and we could fight and we could bleed. To what purpose? Because Syria goes, it's not going to be our big headache. The big headache's going to come, this is the morning after drinking too much on New Year's Eve for both Israel and Turkey. And they're going to have trouble. They'll have trouble with this hangover.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Scott and Larry. Great pleasure, as always, talking to you.
Well, it was a pleasure with my buddy Scott. This way, because normally whenever I see you and Scott interview, I sit down and watch it. Well, this way I don't have to watch it tonight because I already saw it.
You save some time. And I'm getting more inspiration on my shirt selection. Tommy Bahama will probably get another visit from me by Christmas because Larry's inspiring me with his shirts. So, but thanks for having me.
I can get them for you on sale down here, brother.
All right.
All right, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.